stadium lights, with 3 birds before halftime. My heart racing like it's 4th and 5 on a Midwest Saturday night.
Welcome back to another episode of Mizzou Storytellers podcast. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Nikki. How's it going?
Good. We need to shout out producer Steve's wife for allowing him to come this morning. Shout out to Jessica and the kids, because producer Steve was supposed to be on vacation, and he loves us so much.
He's still going to go on vacation.
He's still going on vacation. We're not stopping him, but he may have been able to go down to the lake a little earlier. So shout out to Jessica for that. Thanks, producer Steve, for being here.
Big up Jessica, the real boss.
I already know who the real boss is, Steve. Don't
Wasn't
worry.
her birthday was last weekend, and you had to work something or other during that.
Yeah.
So man,
It's the gauntlet. It's Mother's Day, and then the next weekend's always her birthday, and then our anniversary is June 5th.
Oh wow.
So it is.
It's basically Jessica.
It's a great time.
5
to be Jessica
weeks,
Sowers,
which is
yeah.
we love that. I love that for her.
It's
and I
like a
want her to know
second
that.
Christmas season.
Seriously, yeah, it's like 6 months out. That's great. But no, shout out to her. Thanks for being here, Steve. Know you have vacation and you want to go sit in the sun.
We did kind of have to, bring him in because we got a pretty important guest today.
I know we do. We do
Yeah.
a pretty important guest. So
Are you nervous?
no,
That's good.
I think that I've gotten just comfortable in
You
this
have.
chair. And I love doing the podcast, so I don't get as nervous anymore.
Your questions are really good. I noticed that with our last week's guest. I just kind of let you take over. I'm like, yeah, she's got it.
I think, I sometimes I do all the research and then I just see
Yeah.
where we go.
Yeah.
So, I bought a car this week.
Oh, you did?
I did buy
I know
a
that.
car.
I knew that. I'm acting surprised like I didn't know that. But
Yeah,
I
I
did know that.
park next to him every day, so I don't know why. But yeah, I upgraded and I negotiated.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Was that an empowering day for you?
It was, because I negotiated the crap out of it, which was great. And the other thing that's so dumb, but my dad had helped me sign my old car, and I signed for this car, so that means I'm growing up. My dad was
you
like,
are.
so you're grown up and I don't need to help you anymore. I said, whoa there, hold your horses. I'm still on your insurance. Let's not get carried away.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. How is it working out?
I'm obsessed. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I thought, I had a trade-in thing, so I didn't realistically need to get a new car. But
I was
if it
going to
worked
say,
out, it
it's not
worked
like
out. No, but
your old car had heat
I did have
and
heat.
AC.
But if it worked out, it worked out, and it did. But I didn't realize I really did upgrade. Like she's lovely. Love her.
Well, she has a name,
Shadow.
Shadow.
Yeah, because she's all black.
Yeah, she is.
So
Is
Yeah.
it a Lambo?
I wish. I'm not there yet, producer Steve. When I start getting this podcast NIL money, maybe I'll switch it up. But no, I upgraded to a Mazda CX-30. So I had a Mazda CX-3. Loved it. So,
Yeah. Are you like reliving your Formula One obsession, like in your new Mazda? You're driving around like late at night and
no, I don't. But
speeding around the corners.
I try not to speed. But she drives like the gas pedal. I do notice myself sometimes. Not that my other car wasn't great. It was.
Yeah.
But my new car just drives a little bit nicer because it's a 2024 and it's just bigger and a little bit of an upgrade. And so sometimes I have to watch my speed.
Have you hit any curbs yet?
No. I park
Okay.
away.
Be
I drive
careful.
slow. There'll be no curbs that are going to...
Curbs just get in the way of your right tire, it seems.
Yeah, they do.
Right
But
front
it's
tire.
because my mom taught me that from a young age. She used to hit the curb as well.
She taught you to hit the curbs?
Well, she just used to hit the curb, so I just naturally inherited that instinct.
Well, good luck.
Thanks. So,
Congrats.
yeah. But do you want to get into the guest now?
Yes, we
You seem
should.
very excited. I'm very excited.
We are. It's a big day for the podcast.
It's a big day, so let's get into it.
Okay.
A son, husband, father, linebacker, team captain, two-time academic All-American, the leader, relationship builder, revenue generator, Mizzou Director of Athletics, Laird Veatch, and this is his story. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That's quite the intro. Appreciate that.
We've really taken these intros, and I love each week to kind of look at who we have on and kind of try to encompass their story before we get started. So we're really excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Welcome to the studio. Welcome back to the Hearn Center, your old home. Now, you got to tell us, where exactly in the building are we compared to where your offices used to be when your first stints at Missouri?
Okay. There were different stints. There were different stays.
Right,
So
right.
actually my second one was with Mizzou Sports Properties, which I believe is right on the other side of this wall.
Yeah.
So just next to this. And so I had the same view down into our future indoor track here shortly. And then I was at the opposite end of the hall, the far end down there, where I shared an office with Ross Bjork and John Cadillac.
Wow.
So Yeah.
There were some stories in that room, I bet.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of stories, a lot of loud talking, trying to talk over each other on the phone with the old the old dial-up phone back in the day. So.
Coach Cadillac's name has come up a lot since you came back to Mizzou. And Nikki, like, I'm sorry for you. You never got to meet Coach.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite people I've ever been around, not just at Mizzou, but period in my life, my world, and working life. And you worked, like you said, in an office with him, spent a lot of time with him. And that's one of my favorite parts about your homecoming is we get to reconnect with people from the past who may not be here anymore, but who just, you mentioned certain names and people light up talking about them. And Coach was obviously one of them, maybe more than anybody around here.
Yeah. He was just so incredibly warm and engaging. He was one of those people that just, you could not help but love him.
Yeah.
Like, it's just who he was. He just kind of exuded that, and he made everybody feel that way. It wasn't just me; it was everybody around him. So yeah, he's one of those people that you just feel very thankful that he was in your life.
Yeah.
Because the kind of heartfelt impact he had on the place and the people there. And he was he was Mr. Mizzou for a reason, because
Absolutely.
he kind of was that glue that brought so many people together.
For sure. All right. Well, let's get into your story, Laird.
So we're going to go back to Manhattan, Kansas, where it all started, which this is our second trip back to Manhattan, Kansas. We had Blair on already, so we got to go back. So tell us about growing up there, what it was like, kind of childhood, and just, living in Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah, I picture it probably very similar to growing up in Columbia, Missouri back in the day. Midwest, very much college town. Columbia has grown much more since, so different in many respects today. But for me, it was the quintessential college town. It was I would get up in the morning and run around the park and play with the friends, and it was very much, you could jump on your bike and drive across town to go to the Walmart or whatever you needed to do and drive back or ride back. So it was a really just good quality experience. I grew up in the same house from about 5 years on all the way through.
Wow.
My folks are still in the same house. My wife is still in the same house, a block apart from where I was. And I actually delivered her paper back in the day, so I was the paper boy in the
Wow.
neighborhood. Mowing yards, delivering papers. I mean, it was kind of like Americana at its finest. So.
And when did sports come into play? And we know you played football, obviously, in college, so we'll kind of get into when you decided, like, football was your thing, but when did sports come into play?
I was amazingly competitive from a very, very young age, almost to a point that I look back on and think, was there something wrong with me as like an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid? My first love was actually track. So, I played all the sports, baseball, basketball, football, all that. I tried soccer for a little bit, didn't really get into it back in those days. But track was my favorite, and I loved running. I was actually a fast little dude, so one of my favorite memories was when I was 10 years old in the 10 and under Junior Olympic State Championship for the 100-yard dash, and I won it, and I won the 200 and the long jump. So I was, for that age, I was a pretty fast little kid, and I literally remember staying up almost the entire night before, like praying for God to let me win the 100-yard dash. Like I was just I'd get up before school in the morning and run around the park to train, and I was just that kid that just was really, really driven from a young age to win. So sports was always kind of a center part, and I had two older brothers. One, my Matt, who's now in Kansas City, was a really, really good athlete, highly competitive too. So I was always kind of trying to, compete and play up to him. So it from the beginning, that was it. And I even from the things that I surrounded myself, whether it was summer jobs, I worked as a supervisor of the local baseball field, or I worked in a sporting goods store. It was just always around sports from, kind of from day one.
At what point did your track dreams, like, maybe fade away?
at the point where I got a little heavier in high school, and I couldn't quite. So I ended up.
The
I ended
100
up still,
wasn't as easy.
Yeah, when I probably between my sophomore and junior year in high school, the actually I saw it's funny. I saw that Mike Ringenberg and Matt Wallerstadt were the two high school superstar linebackers my sophomore year, so they were graduating. Saw Mike Ringenberg yesterday in Kansas City, who actually came here and played here.
Yeah.
So followed Mike, and the coach came to us and said to me and my buddy, who we were almost exact same size, we were like, 6'1", 6'2", but weighed like 170 pounds. He was like, you got to put on weight. If you do, you have a chance to start next year at linebacker.
Yeah.
So we both just trained and put on like 30, 40 pounds in that off season, and that's when my track career kind of dropped. So at that point, I couldn't quite keep up in the sprints. I still threw some, threw the shot and disc and some of the other things, but we had a heck of a hog relay team, though. Y'all remember the hog relays? So basically, all the throwers got to actually run a 4x100 at the end of the day.
There you go.
And they actually counted it for points, and we crushed it because we had me and two or three other kind of linebacker types that would all run it.
There you go.
Athletic enough to compete.
Still competitive.
Just maybe not winning the 100 anymore.
Right.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Shelter Insurance. Ranked number 1 in customer satisfaction for auto insurance in the Central Region by J.D. Power 5 out of the last 6 years. We're your shield. We're your shelter.
What was recruitment like for you? Because you obviously played at K-State. So did you ever think, I don't want to stay here, or you just loved living there? You grew up around it. I'm sure in a college town you were seeing everything K-State all the time. You were around the sports. So kind of what decision was that like?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. It does involve Mizzou. So it really came down to Mizzou and K-State were my final 2 options. The only 3 schools that offered me were K-State, KU, and Mizzou. Of course, I wasn't going to KU. That I never even visited, just for the record. I told them I'm not coming. But Mike Ringenberg was here. Maurice Benson was also here at Mizzou. So I really thought I was coming here, and partly because I grew up around K-State football, which was literally awful.
Yeah.
Literally the
I did my
worst
research
program
and I said, this was not good.
Yeah, they were really, really bad, and had never had success really of any kind. They went to a bowl game one time before that to that point. So I really thought I was coming here, and then it kind of came down about a week before signing date. A 3 of my teammates, high school teammates, also signed with K-State. We just happened to have a really kind of talented high school group at that point. And I just had this kind of gut feeling that Coach Schneider was going to get it done, and that was the kind of the deciding factor in the end. And it obviously had a great experience. We turned it around, and it was a wonderful thing. But I really thought I was trying to get away, and then kind of last minute decided to stay.
Which I think everything works out like how it's supposed to be. But no, it's just interesting that it was Mizzou and K-State that it came down to. So.
And you got to be a part of the beginning of that. I don't know if dynasty is the right word, because there weren't national championships, but it was everything but. I mean, Coach Snyder took that program to unseen heights for Manhattan, Kansas. What was it like to be part of that core foundation that got it started?
Yeah, it was incredibly rewarding and incredibly hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was when I came in as a freshman, I think we had 50-something scholarship players.
Yeah.
So it was a complete and total, shift of the program. They candidly ran off a lot of people that just weren't, didn't have the right attitude, didn't have that ability. So it was really challenging because it was before the days of, hour rules and contact limits and all those things. But it was incredibly rewarding because we were part of shifting an entire culture. And, we went 5-6 my freshman year, and had a couple 9-win seasons and top 20 in the country my junior, senior year, and first bowl games. And so it was a really kind of amazing experience. I've touched on this before, like in my press conference, but the chance to kind of be a part of something as it really grows and ascends to that high level,
right,
and have that success it was just an amazing experience.
And Coach Snyder was kind of notorious for known as, it's kind of a cliche, but as the coach who slept on the couch and put in the work ethic and the hours that no one else did. I mean, I guess if you're, as a player, a student athlete, you're invested in the process too. Do you kind of take on that approach as well?
Yeah, no question. And people always asked me for years after that, including Coach Pinkel, who I had a breakfast with after he was hired here, and he was picking my brain about, okay, what really happened, and the real answer in the end is he just didn't accept anything else.
Yeah,
it was he demanded success, and he led the way by outworking everybody, and I described him as like the most amazingly consistent person I've ever met. I mean, just his routine and his discipline and his detail. He would just every day, he had this thing get a little better every day, and he meant it. Like it was true. You just every little day you'd make a little bit of a more of a move up, and it worked over time. But just that system and that process it just eliminated the ability to not be successful.
Right. Right. Yeah.
What was it like being named team captain? I think a lot of times we talk about like individual accolades and what they mean, or even team success, but a lot of times that like being named captain or being chosen by your peers, what did that mean to you?
It's probably still to this day maybe the most impactful or meaningful thing that I've received from a group of people. Because when you are literally like, in the trenches, and particularly going through everything we went through, to me that said that they recognized that I was someone that, walked the walk and did everything that we were supposed to do to get to that point. Just have that trust from those men meant a ton to me at that time, and still to this day it means a ton. So yeah, it was a great honor, and something I look back on now and realize how much I learned from that process at a very young age about the kind of obligation of leadership, and when you're put in a role like that, the need to stand up to that and to live it, and walk it out every day. That when you have that kind of label on you, eyes are on you, and others expect a certain kind of standard from you. So it was a great thing for me.
We hear a lot from student athletes that there's a transitional period when you're done playing and deciding what you're going to do next. So you end up going to Texas to work in the athletic department. How did you kind of make a decision? Like, I want to work. You said it yourself. You've always kind of worked in sports, but how was it that decision to not coach? Or maybe you thought, I do want to coach and I don't know. But how did you know kind of staying in this industry was what I want to do? I just maybe don't know exactly what that means.
Yeah. I will tell you, I struggled with that through college because I really didn't know what I was going to do. But I had always been around sports, as mentioned. I knew I didn't want to coach, candidly, because I saw that life and the difficulty of it, particularly to raise a family, to be a husband and father, and to have any kind of balance beyond that, and still to this day I so appreciate coaches because the things they sacrifice, the what it requires of a coach is at a different level. I mean, this job is hard, being an administrator is hard, but being a coach is a whole different level. So, I decided that really didn't fit my kind of value set, what I felt like I needed to live out. So the summer before my senior year, the athletic department actually hired, which was legal in those days, and I guess it would be legal now, but There's been a long time since it wouldn't be, to go around and kind of be spokespeople for the athletic department to promote ticket sales. So Kirby Hokut, who was the athletic director at Texas Tech, and I were together throughout that whole tour. So throughout the summer, we went to catbacker events across the summer. We'd go to Rotary groups. We'd do all these things, and we also got to spend time with administrators. And Max Urich was our athletic director at the time, and I got exposed to what that really was or is through that process, and realized maybe that's the path that I want to go down. So early that fall, DeLoss Dodds, who was the athletic director at Texas for years and years, was being inducted in the Hall of Fame at Kansas State. And so I asked Coach Schneider and like 3 or 4 other people to put in a good word for me. And when he came up, I met him, and he set up a graduate assistantship in the athletic department at Texas, which brought me down there. And I just decided I wanted to go to grad school. I wanted to get a master's. That was kind of early in those years, so that was one of a handful of schools out there that had a sports management program. And it really allowed me to get an incredible start. And it was also really interesting being there because it was the last year of the Big 8 and then the first year of the Big 12 were my 2 years at Texas. So ended up being another incredible experience.
Your first full-time job then is here at Missouri after that graduate experience at Texas. What was that application process like? Did you have a connection at Mizzou, or did you just call everybody and get your resume out? How did that work, that cycle then?
The listeners are going to get tired of K-State, so
That's
I
all right.
know that.
We had Blair on. It's okay.
We already had Blair on. It's fine.
Right. But Bruce Vandevelde
Yep.
was associate athletic director and football operations person at K-State when I was there. He came here to
Right.
work for Joe Castiglione and to run their development office. And he was looking for some young entry-level fundraisers. And so I already had that connection with Bruce. He called me and said, "Hey, I'm looking at this," and it just led to the job up here. So appreciate Bruce for that. And it was in Joe Castiglione's, I guess, last year and a half or so before he left.
And what was your role initially when you come here as a full-time employee in the department?
Development officer. So I was entry level, fundraiser, so to speak. Things shifted around pretty quickly. So within probably about a year, Ross and I together were doing a lot.
Yeah.
We had some turnover kind of above us, so I became in charge of the Tiger Scholarship Fund and annual giving for a year or two, and then moved into major gifts, and then it just kind of kept progressing from there.
Yeah, and you got your first, I guess, taste of turnover in a department then, because Joe leaves to go to Oklahoma. Mike Alden comes in. What do you remember then about just that early stages of the transition? And did you have to kind of feel yourself out what your role was going to be, how you're going to work with Mike, and what was that time like for you?
Yeah, I remember anxiety, which I shared with our staff when I got here.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. I've been around it on both sides in different scenarios. So it's challenging because you just don't know how you fit, how you'll connect with the new leader. Do I as a young professional meet what that person is going to want or expect?
Right.
And as you can imagine, Mike Alden, you all know Mike, when he came in, he was hard charging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now in a lot of ways that fit me, kind of young, competitive,
Sure.
recent football player. So I kind of embraced that early on, but I do remember on the early end, being concerned about it. I also remember one of my proudest moments was my first $1 million gift that I secured was Ralph and Betty Taylor Stadium, so the baseball stadium at the time. So I had secured that between when Joe had left and before Mike came on board. So that was like my first trying to kiss up to the new boss and impress the new boss. I went in with $1 million gifts, commitment, which back then $1 million was a lot of money.
For sure.
Oh yeah,
not that it's not today. I'm just joking,
and
but it was a
as
big
your
deal.
first gift, like major gift, you're probably like, I'm so proud of this.
Oh,
like
yeah.
this is amazing. I do love. I mean, I've heard a few Ross stories, and just knowing that you kind of both came in similar like roles, similar time frames and everything, and just hearing the two of you like almost be a little bit competitive at first, and then realize like, wait, we actually could probably be really great if we like work in the same direction. And just some of the stories you talk about with him, it just seems like you guys had a lot of fun and obviously learned a lot. And we had made note, like, Alden's Army is a real thing. And even when I got to Missouri and then I started looking at, a lot of these ADs out there all worked at Missouri, or a lot of these like upper administration. So when you were here working with those people, did you kind of know, like based on personalities, based on what y'all were doing, that like all these people are going to go and be successful in their own right? Or was it just we were all here working really hard, having a good time doing it, and it just so happened that, a few years later, everyone's kind of at the top or close to the top?
Yeah, it was probably more the latter. I mean, I think we knew we had a good group, and we enjoyed being together. We all enjoyed working hard. We knew we were all really committed to the profession and doing what we were doing. But I don't think any of us knew that we would go on and have these kind of opportunities. But we also knew we were learning and doing things the right way. There was a lot of pride in that. It's kind of like when you're part of a team that's being successful and you're winning. You're doing the right things to win, and there's a lot of pride in that. There's pride in working hard. There's pride in the discipline. There's pride in the growth and the progress. So we had a lot of that, and I do think starting off your profession with a group like that and having that kind of culture and attitude sort of led us all to really kind of dig in deep on the profession and to commit ourselves to doing it and having a lot of pride and getting to that point later on. So looking back on it now, I can see why and have a real appreciation for it. But in the moment, no, we were probably just a bunch of young folks running around, working hard and having fun.
Was there anything about Mike's leadership style that you think helped develop all these people, yourself included? I mean, I don't know if it was maybe Ross, or might have been you years ago, told me that he really did delegate a lot, certain things to kind of test you to see if you could handle it. Did that happen frequently?
Yeah. I feel like he just exposed us, kind of young administrators to higher level stuff than what a lot of athletic directors probably did. Now, it was a smaller environment, right? We didn't have as many employees as we do now.
Right.
And so there was less people to give things to. That's part of the reality as well. But he was very intentional about it. He was an intentional teacher. He really wanted us to see it. And I think he saw talent, and he wanted to try to help talented young people grow. But yeah, he pulled you in quick. I mean, I was literally like, in the room and in the back, I was probably taking notes or being a gopher. But when Gary Pinkel was hired, I'd be around and helping with things and listening to the process and involved in it and taking notes. I have a binder of all of the notes from some of the search processes back in those days, and it was like you were getting another master's in athletic administration as you were going through it, because it was so kind of intentional in process and kind of the fundamental approaches of being an athletic administrator.
Sure.
And I do think in many ways Mike was ahead of his time, because there wasn't that many what I would say truly professionally developed athletic directors at the time to that level. So it was a pretty remarkable opportunity.
We were talking about the Pinkel search last week and your role in it, and Mike kind of pulled back the curtain for a story that I wrote right before I switched over to Mizzou last year on how that process went. I'm sure he gave me a lot of the notes at the time. I'm sure you wrote a lot of those at the time.
Yes, I'm sure. He called me before that interview with you and said, "Hey, can you send me your notes?"
That's great. But at the time, you have no idea that this coach you're hiring might one day be in the College Football Hall of Fame, and it's just it kind of speaks to the business of. I don't want to say it's a crapshoot, but a lot of times you're just kind of gambling on your expertise and the process that you're going through, and you're just trusting that this is going to work out. And sometimes it does, and you hit big, and you may not know it for a long time, but that was one that hit big.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's been in a hiring position where you are hiring other people, it's difficult. That there's times when you just miss.
Yeah.
That it's not, you're not going to bat 100%. But you also, I do think you kind of build up over time an experience of doing it, sort of a gut feel and read on people, and really knowing and understanding the process and how the connectivity needs to work in the network that out there, and just all of that. It's very unique, and in many ways it's even more challenging today than it was back then, because of the pace and the media attention and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but you hire enough good people and you make some mistakes, and over time you do learn from that.
Tiger fans, say aloha to Hawaiian Bros, where the island-inspired flavors are positively delicious. You'll love favorites like huli huli chicken, luau pig, and the delectable Dole soft serve. Hawaiian Bros, just south of campus on Grindstone Parkway, or order at hawaiianbros.com.
Can we go back to the $1 million check? How did you present that to Mike? Did you have to get on his schedule and find a day where you can present it, or does it come up in conversation?
I kind of slipped it into his office, put it on his desk, and so when he got there, it would be there already ready.
All right.
Wrote a note. Here's this for you.
Just
Wait
thought
to
I'd drop
meet
this
you.
off.
Hopefully our TSF staff is listening.
Yeah,
and I can
seriously,
take a
you're
lesson
gonna-
here. This is how
Hopefully
it's
you have
done.
some checks on your desk after this. So your next role was at Iowa State, which I'd like to know. You had a thing for the Big 8 into the Big 12. You were staying in that area. What was that role? What was kind of everything you've talked about Columbia and Missouri is that you had great. So like leaving a place like this, very similar to where you grew up. But Iowa State's your next stop. What was that role?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was here for maybe 5 years in the athletic department and kind of moved up into I don't even remember what my final title was, assistant AD or associate AD of development, one of those. And Bruce Vandevelde, who hired me here, became the athletic director at Iowa State. He actually went to, I think, Utah State between that time, but he was at Iowa State. And he called me up, so I was 29 years old, I think, somewhere in that range, 28, 29, and he called me up and offered me a job that was essentially like a deputy athletic, kind of a number 2 in the athletic department at a really young age. So it was almost one of those things I felt like I can't turn this down. It's just an incredible opportunity. And it was hard, candidly, because I was really young and I was going into a job that I wasn't really quite prepared for, and it ended up being a really dynamic, kind of difficult time. So that was when Larry Eustace had the issue with that was there, and I won't go into all that and regurgitate all of it. But for a young administrator to be in the middle of that, and some other things that went on there were really difficult. But it was an incredible lesson. I tell people that may have been, I probably learned more in that year than I learned in any others. And then, I was there maybe 13 months, and I don't know if it was Mike Beheimer or Roger Gardner or Greg Brown, one of the Learfield leaders, called me up and said, "Hey, we have our general manager position opening up. Would you think about coming back?" And it was just the right fit at the right time. And really, at that point, we had one girl, Jordan, that was with us. We were pregnant with our second, and the experience I had at Iowa State made me kind of think, I don't know if I want to be in the head chair. Like, I don't know if I want to do that and try to be a family guy and all of the stuff that's there. So it's like, this Learfield thing's really interesting to me because it's still in sports. I knew the people and the kind of leadership and the kind of growth opportunity, but it's the business side of sports and the media. So I was just kind of fascinated by that concept, and it ended up being true. I loved that role. I loved working with that company and that time of growth. So that just led me to kind of come back in a short time later and then jump back into the Mizzou.
Was it calculated at all that think maybe the business opportunity would help build your profile to be an AD someday, or were you thinking in time this is kind of the area I like?
I do not want to do.
I was really thinking it was a new path at that point. Like, I thought it'd be something that I could really enjoy and get into. It ended up being, as I look back on it, a really incredible kind of added value experience for me because it gave me understanding of working for a kind of a more bottom line company, but also the media components of it and several pieces in there, the training, the sales training, there's a lot of pieces to that I look back on now and I feel like it's really, really helped me. But at the time it was more about, I think this is just a path I wanted to go down.
Yeah.
And it led to an opportunity to have growth within the company, and the company was really growing, and it ended up being really all I thought it would be, and then later on the Kansas State thing came open. So
now, you did move from Columbia to Kansas City as part of your Learfield experience there,
right?
And then when your role expanded.
Yeah, so I went from the general manager here to a vice president there in Kansas City, and that was a time when Learfield was really growing.
Yeah.
So I think when I joined as a general manager, there were maybe 8 properties or something, and so they needed to expand. So they were sort of promoting some of the general managers into vice president roles so that they could go out and build that model out at different places. So I worked with 8 different schools in the Midwest, based out of Kansas City, and started 4 of those 8 in that 3-year time frame. So it was just a time when things were really growing. So another great experience.
Were you okay with the Kansas City move, or were you like, no? I mean, you're obviously growing within the company, but you talk so fondly of Columbia, and at that point you had probably the 3 girls, and so were you like, we don't want to leave, but this is such a good role? So is it one of those where you're like, I can't turn down the growth, but also I don't necessarily want to leave Columbia? I mean, Kansas City is 2 hours away, and you're closer to your family at home, but I could see you being like, this is great, but also we have to move again.
Yeah.
And
that's very accurate. We struggled with that part of it. We did miss the college town thing, and that kind of just living environment. But it was such a great growth opportunity. We had to take it.
And that led to a return to K-State. How did that opportunity unfold?
Yeah, another thing that I didn't necessarily anticipate, but when I was in Kansas City in that role, Kansas State was one of the schools that I supervised for Learfield.
Yeah.
And John Curry got hired as the athletic director there. And he and I knew each other a little. We just more had some friends, mutual friends, had connected maybe a time or two. But he reached out to me one time when he was in Kansas City early on. We grabbed a beverage together and later one evening, and I thought he was just going to pick my brain about the Learfield thing and that relationship, and we did to a certain degree. But then he threw out this idea of, would you think about coming back? And he presented it to me at the time that he had decided, as a athletic director who grew up as kind of a high level fundraiser in the profession, he wanted to hire someone that could come in and that really knew what they were doing at a pretty high level and really help fundraise the larger gifts and help that whole process in a big way. So it was one of those things I struggled with a little bit at first because I felt like I was kind of moving back into a path that maybe I thought we were going to move away from. But between the opportunity to work with John at the alma mater, in that role, and he had some pretty impressive visions about what could be done with the place and how we could particularly grow the facilities and do some of those things, and the thought of being a part of that was really what enticed me.
Did you meet a young Blair DeBoard at that time? What was he had to have been a student athlete while you were there, correct?
He was. So Blair was, let's see, I think he was a senior in probably 2013, maybe 12, 13. So he was, part of that we had when I was there. Football, men's basketball, and baseball won conference championships that year. So he was a team captain, and I got to be around him and see him. But then he came in and said he wanted to work in athletics and became a graduate assistant for us, and kind of progressed from there.
I thought it was interesting that when you were there, your college coach got rehired to be the head coach. So what is that like? He's, not coaching, he's done, and all of a sudden he's back. And you obviously you were there year 2, so you know how successful he could be. And then you hire him back, and so talk about that.
Yeah, he was actually hired right before I got there. So
Okay.
The transition of him coming on board was within a year before I got there. I can't remember the exact timing, but it was really close. So it was that was neat. I mean, because I knew he was going to be successul. you just know what he's going to do. You know the process, steps he's going to take, and so that was another thing to just going back and being excited that you could be part of seeing how it's going to come back, and to reconnect with people that and I brought a lot of the coaches back that I had worked with before, and so that was another neat part of the experience.
While you're at K-State, there's conference realignment going on around the country, and the place where you used to work makes the move to the SEC. What do you remember at the time thinking that, okay, Missouri's leaving this conference, going to the SEC? You hadn't worked at the SEC at that point. And at that point, obviously, I have no idea that you're going to end up back at Mizzou. But,
Right.
but what were you thinking at the time?
Well, really, from when I was at Kansas State, it was sort of a dark time. I mean,
Yeah.
There was a lot of fear,
Yeah.
fear of being left out.
And that was happening here too.
Yeah, and it was kind of a time of panic for a lot of folks. It was almost you fast forward to today, what happened to Washington State and
Sure.
Oregon State. That was the fear, and it was very real, for Kansas State and a handful of other schools that knew that they could kind of get left out on an island. So that really kind of consumed all of us at that point,
Yeah.
of just trying to manage through that and make sure there was a path on the other side. So it was really difficult. I do remember just the kind of a sadness about the change, which I think a lot of people struggled with. I grew up watching, Missouri and K-State play, or Nebraska and K-State play,
Colorado had left.
all those schools that we built up that those rivalries with, and I think still people struggle with some of those things being behind us. But I also remember thinking at the time that if I'm Mizzou, if I'm some of these other schools, I get it. If I'm in their position, they got to position themselves for the future, and they really had to think long term, and so it was a challenging time.
Yeah, for sure. For you, then you end up in the SEC, going to Florida. What was the experience like? That part of the country you hadn't lived in, and a conference you hadn't worked in, but you get your first taste of the SEC. What was that like?
Yeah, another sort of unexpected move. It feels like we just kind of fell into things as we went through it all. But when we left Kansas State to go to Florida, we thought we were there for a long time, and that didn't work out, which is fine. But the Florida thing happened almost immediately after the K-State thing didn't happen, and it was almost like God opening a door, and it felt like I got this call from Scott Strickland, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's Florida, it's Scott, everything I've heard about the place and the people. So it was another kind of emotional, kind of challenging emotional time, particularly for my family. But what a cool opportunity to go to Florida and to live there and to see that operation and how they've what they had built up over time in terms of just the overall culture of the athletic department. All of that was really impressive, and it was certainly another level. You see the difference between a Big 8 or a Big 12 and the SEC.
Sure.
Not only in money and facilities and operation, but just in the quality of the student athletes and the overall kind of size of the fan base and the attention that you get. So it was really important now, again, that I look back on that, to have that exposure, because you realize the difference and the expectations that are involved when you're competing literally, at the highest level.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly was your role there? What all did you oversee?
Yeah, so really, that was the only thing that really appealed to me by taking that position, is because I'd always been on the fundraising, external kind of revenue generation, sponsorship sales, whatever that may be. And Scott wanted to bring me in more as a COO role. So it was, overseeing football. It was, kind of the deputy for internal type of position. So that was a whole different type of experience on top of, obviously being at a different kind of place. So that was really appealing as well, because I felt like in a lot of ways that's what I needed to kind of round out, to learn and to grow, and to really see what it took to operate the department internally and to be in that kind of position.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure your oldest daughter is now very grateful for the Florida move, because I did get to talk to your family, and we'll go into your family, but I know she met her now husband in high school in Gainesville. So I'm sure whatever her feelings were, I'm sure hopefully if she had any, don't move me in high school, I don't want to do this, she's probably very grateful now, which we'll get into that. But when you were so now you're on the COO side at Florida, and did you kind of get this? You talked to us about how you were I don't know if I ever want to be in the chair. Did you start to get this itch? Maybe I'm close. I'm here now and I'm back in this side of it. Were you kind of, when you were at Florida, were you maybe my next step would be and then obviously Memphis happens. So did you get that itch to be well, I'm so close, and that competitive nature of, well, maybe.
Yeah. And really that happened in the latter year or two at Kansas State. And, because I went into the interim role, I went into the deputy role and the interim role and went for that job, didn't get it. And when I didn't get it, it really made me realize that is what I want. That's what I feel like we're striving for and kind of building for. I want that challenge. I want that opportunity. So I took the Florida job with the idea that it would help me to take that next step. That I thought we'd be there longer than just a few years, but it was that part was intentional. We'd kind of moved past some of the, I think, early years of raising the kids when they were real young, and we knew we're getting a little older. We could probably manage it a little differently. So that started in those latter years at K-State, and then moving into Florida, it did allow me to think of that intentionally. To how do I help learn and grow myself, and what I need to do to round myself out and position myself for an opportunity like that.
Mm-hmm. And then Memphis comes around, and it's a really unique job, I think, because and I'm not just saying this because you're here and you were the AD there, but it seemed like Memphis didn't think of itself as a group of five, as a smaller school. You shot for the moon. You tried to think of yourself as being a Power 5 school, because you're in a bigger market. Became a pro market with the Grizzlies there. So what did you think of that job when it became open, and then what was your vision for what you could do there?
Yeah, when they hired me originally, I think one of the reasons they hired me is because I had the Big 12 SEC experience and the network and the knowledge of what it takes to kind of compete at that level. So there was a real commitment from the leadership at Memphis and an expectation of the fan base to try to get to that next level. And so deservedly so. I mean, it is a place that has some real capacity, real passionate fan base, great location in the country from both a recruiting standpoint, media standpoint. There's just a lot to that place. Really good, strong brand. I mean, it is a well-known brand. And particularly not at that time when I was coming on board, not just in basketball over the years, but football had started to turn. So that part was really exciting to be at a place where it really aspired to be something at a higher level. Because I think when you have that drive, then it allows you to really push and grow and change. If there isn't a true kind of desire, high level desire to grow, then it's really difficult to get people to invest, and really difficult to get people to change and do things that they would need to happen to elevate.
Yeah. What did being in the chair, what changed for you besides just being the guy, being the one in charge? Now you're not a deputy, you're not a COO. How did your life change, did you feel like?
what I discovered early on is I did feel very prepared. So when I stepped into the role, you always kind of roll and wonder any role you get into. Okay, am I ready for that? How's this going to feel? And it felt much more comfortable than maybe I thought it might. So that was really good early on. I also realized quickly that you couldn't necessarily just rely on all the things you knew before, because you were involved in every kind of big level decision, and things were changing so fast at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into COVID, we went into so many things, and and obviously all the transition and change that's happened in college athletics over the last handful of years. So it kind of just became more almost like change management, really having to dig in with groups and manage challenges and issues directly on almost a daily basis. It became almost different in a lot of ways. So, but you do then rely on kind of people skills, management skills, things you learned in the past, and having that base kind of foundation was very, very helpful, and I think allows you to have the confidence to lead through something like that. But I felt more comfortable, and then I do feel like it's one of those. It's like when you elevate it again in athletics, and you go from another one level to the next. They talk about going from high school to college to pro. That first year or two, things are moving pretty fast, and then after that, things start to slow down, and you feel where to focus, how to engage. You get used to sort of that pressure or weight that's on your shoulders, and you learn how to manage that. So it was. It was another great learning experience, and a really good overall experience, because I felt like we were able to move some things forward and really progress through a difficult time there.
For sure.
And had some good people to
sure.
work with.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Sophia's and Addison's Restaurants. Sophia's and Addison's Restaurants are great local spots to visit before or after all Mizzou home games. Addison's has 2 locations in Southwest and downtown Columbia and features over 20 beers on tap, including local brewers and, of course, their famous Nachos Bianco. So remember, before or after the game, stop by Addison's.
2024, you're back. Head job here. You've touched on it, but I think maybe some of the listeners here, tell us what it means to you to be back as the director of athletics at the University of Missouri.
It's really it still feels almost surreal. It's very overwhelming in a really, really cool way. It very humbling. You feel there's times that I'll be driving around town thinking I really get to do this. Like this is really happening. Even to the point where, like yesterday, I was in Kansas City, which I've mentioned before. I was kind of my territory.
Right.
Ross was over in St. Louis. I was in Kansas City. So seeing some of those folks yesterday, had a lunch with a bunch of faces that I recognized from back in the day, and that immediate connection is so kind of comforting, fulfilling. You realize how quickly, even though all those years have passed, how you can revert back to a relationship that was established so long ago. And then a couple nights ago, I went to the EMU Children's Hospital ribbon cutting, and I was sitting in the crowd where they were talking through that, and one of the speakers talked about that she had a moment when she mentioned the improvements in the NICU and having their own kind of pods or areas in the NICU, and how great that is for families, because if you have a child that's in the NICU that's beeping all the time, you go through the night and there's multiple children, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Well, that was my wife and I. Even back in the day, our oldest daughter went back in the NICU for a couple of weeks after being born, and it was incredibly, you can imagine for first time parents how emotional and challenging that is. So I quickly went back to that moment, and just to see that now come here, and the growth and what's happened. And it also, then I had this moment of how cool is it that I get to be the athletic director and help be in charge and part of an area that has such a big impact in providing exposure and marketing and benefit for things like the EMU Children's Hospital, which is obviously so much bigger than sports. It's just this kind of moment where you realize this is it. This is the one. This is what we've been working towards all these years, and we get to be a part of it now. Then there's also a feeling of, man, I really want to do this right, because there that sense of responsibility of knowing the importance of it, is really really motivational.
Yeah, I really liked an answer you gave at your press conference. It was afterwards when you met with some of the media, and somebody brought up the fact that, hey, you were in the running for this job a couple years ago, didn't go your way. Did you have, when it came open again, were you hesitant to throw your hat back in the ring? And you immediately said, Heck no. No, I won the job.
Right.
Like, and I've had jobs before that I didn't get, and I got it the second time around. And it's like, if it's something you really want, you still go after it, no matter if you had some disappointment. So that spoke to me that, hey, this really means something to Laird and your family, to this experience, to have it. You don't worry about what happened or didn't go your way a couple years ago. Life's about second chances. I think that I stole your line. I think you said that.
Yeah.
So it's just funny how it works out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I am a person of faith, so I believe those things happen for a reason. And how many times have you been through a search process and you hire one person, but another person could be just as good. You just don't know.
Right.
You can't take that stuff personally. Literally, I don't look at that. I see why. That Desiree's a very talented athletic director. She did really good things, and I got it right from the beginning. I understand. I still think I have a pride factor, and I still think I'll be a great fit for this job and do really well. But you just can't. I don't think you can look at life that way. I think there's more to it than that. And even to the point where you mentioned my daughter earlier, my other daughter's had a great experience in Memphis and met great people. And one's graduating from high school, and she's had great opportunities. So there's things that go beyond just me in a certain role. That the timing is the timing for a reason, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
We're going to touch on your family, but one last question kind of about the current state, I guess, is what do you want fans to know about the future of Mizzou athletics? And you've only been here for a few weeks, so you can be like, I don't know. Well, in a way, I don't know. But, like, what do you want people to know, and kind of what should they just, like, be on the lookout for?
Yeah. The opportunity is pretty incredible. And I mean that. And I talked a lot about momentum on the front end of what's happening here with, particularly with football. And I think we recognize the importance of that. But across a lot of our sports and with the institution, the university overall, the more I'm here, the more I've seen what's happened to the university and the breadth and depth of the university over the last several years. This is a big-time place, and we are in the big-time conference. And particularly in the environment we're in right now in college athletics and all the challenge and transition, you want to be where we are. So the opportunity is there. It's also an incredibly demanding and competitive environment, right? We are literally in the most competitive conference in the country. So it's going to take a lot. That is part of my message is we are going to have to, we can't slow down. We've got to we got to put the pedal down all the way to the floor, and we're going to have to really take this opportunity to continue to push forward and position ourselves for continued success. So that takes a lot. It's one thing to get to this point. It's another thing to continue it and to make it something that's something that we can maintain and stabilize and continue it at a real high level moving forward in this environment. So it's going to take a lot. And now we have big visions. What's happening with the north end zone, and that is awesome. But it's going to require a lot of us, our staff, our donor base, everybody coming together to make it happen. And we have this kind of time of transition that we're going through, an evolution that is going to require, I believe, even more change than what we've seen over the last few years. So it's a lot. And so the key is going to be coming together and really being tight-knit and together from an athletic department standpoint, a university leadership standpoint, on a plan that we can coalesce around and really get our fan base to buy into and invest in at a high level in order to position us to maintain it. So that may sound like a lot because it is a lot, and there's still a lot to figure out. But we have a chance to do something really, really special. But we gotta really push forward, and in linebacker speak, we gotta shoot the gap. The gap is opening up. We gotta shoot it and take advantage of it, and not hold back or not feel like maybe we can't be that, or we gotta really embrace the opportunity.
I love it. Sounds great. All right, let's get to the wife and kids. This is my portion of the show. So you mentioned that Brandy lived right down the street from you. So I'm assuming that's where y'all met, was growing up.
Yes, I was her paper boy in the neighborhood. So I don't know that she really remembers me much in our younger years. She's a year younger, so a class younger than me, and she actually dated a guy from her class that was a teammate of mine on the football team all through high school. So we didn't date till college. We actually worked together at a sporting goods store. Ballard Sporting Goods in the summer, like right after her senior year in high school, my freshman year in college, and that's when we connected and started to date. But we did know each other all throughout, youth and high school. So.
How did you get engaged? That's always my favorite.
So we talked about grad school at Texas. So I was there, I think, 6-9 months, maybe the first 2 semesters, and then Brandy moved down. So we had, dated on and off through college, and then she decided to come down to Texas as well and do her master's in social work. So we continued to date kind of off and on through grad school as well. And then I had the job up here, moved up here, and within really the first, I think, handful of months, she was still down at Texas finishing up her master's, and I flew down there and surprised her. And we actually were back there in Austin here just a few months ago for a little thing I got at the University of Texas, and got to go back out to the same restaurant where we got engaged and all that. So which was really neat. So yeah, we flew down there, got engaged, and then we obviously got married and started our family right here.
Which I do have a note that you got married in football season.
Yeah,
but I think you were strategic because it was the week between the finale and the Big 12 championship game. There used to be a week off back
But
then.
I'm just curious.
It was Thanksgiving
as to
weekend.
how
It was Thanksgiving weekend, and back then Thanksgiving weekend was a free weekend. We didn't have football games on Thanksgiving weekend, so that's
Was that
actually
a
why we chose
mutual
that.
decision, or she was like, "I really want to get married"? It just like happened,
It was mutual, but it actually worked out, pretty
Great.
well. That week we did it because we knew there wouldn't be football games on that side. That was
Right.
That was priority one. And then also just having a couple extra days for people to travel, that kind of thing. So it ended up working really well.
I asked because college administrators hate fall
Fall
weddings.
Yeah.
Anytime your friends get married in the fall, it's like, do your friends like you? What's happening
Right,
here? We've
right.
got games, we've got things happening. And then you have the 4 kids. And so we kind of touched on Jordan is still in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You have Taylor is at K-State, Sydney's going to K-State, and then Drew, which I want to say, you and Drew are about to have numbers in the house for the first time. So
Right.
props to
Our
you
dog
guys.
is a boy too, so it's fully
So
flipped
it's
on Brandy.
flipped now.
So yeah.
So talk to us about the kids and just how they've kind of, you've mentioned born here, kind of been obviously been all over with y'all, but the life experience that they've had and the things that they've gotten to do.
Yeah. I am an incredibly proud father for a lot of reasons, but my girls have really matured throughout a lot of moves and really handled themselves very well and grown a lot. But yeah, it's been a time of change. Has continued with Jordan getting married in January. Had the first experience of that, which ended up being much better and cooler than I imagined. I kind of was dreading it in some respects, but it ended up being really good. And then Taylor is a sophomore at Kansas State, doing remarkably good. She's running around this summer doing some Christian youth camps where she's down in Texas, I think, starting tomorrow, and doing a bunch of things there. My youngest daughter, Sydney, like we talked about, is going to play soccer at Kansas State, something that she's really been working towards and been a goal of hers for many years. I've told others she's kind of me in the girl's body, competitive and driven, and really wants that. But all 3 are remarkable young ladies. I'm super proud of them. And then Drew, we adopted when we were in Manhattan. So he was about right at 2 years old, a little over 2 years old, from Wichita. And has just been, awesome. He's my little buddy. But we've drug him through some moves as well. Getting ready for, hopefully his last one. Right, that's the goal. Going into your 8th grade year is kind of tough. So
Sure.
I think that's going to be but I am happy that he'll get here and get established before high school hits and all that. So. They are blessed to have an incredible mom that has, that brought them up and done all the things that need to happen for them to be the young people they are.
I was fortunate to get to spend your press conference day with your family a little bit, and they were so fun and lovely to be around. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're great. This is fantastic. They're so cool. So, no, it's awesome. Well, Dave's kids are going to be in high school. So
They just graduated 8th grade yesterday,
If
so
Drew needs
I know
some
what that age is
friends,
like.
Yes.
Our twin boys. So good luck, and great schools here. So Drew will be in. He'll be in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
We know what an incredible town this is to raise young people. That's one of the other reasons, one of the many reasons we're super excited.
All right, we'll get into the second to last segment, which is rapid fire, so it should be quick. Your favorite restaurant in Columbia?
Murray's.
Okay, I like that. Favorite Mizzou game day memory?
Ooh, that is hard. I would say in general, driving around the parking lots in a golf cart, just seeing all the different donors and fans, being able to go tailgate to tailgate is pretty fun. And knowing all the work that goes up into that on the front end and getting everybody in the right spot, and then being able to go around and enjoy it. Actually, my first year or two, they had Ross and I were like almost more like parking lot attendants, like security, which was the worst possible idea because we had to like upset and get in arguments with the donors we're trying to raise for money for. So then we flipped it the next year, and then we became more social, doing what we should have been doing, going around all the parking lots. But that's the part that sticks out to me is all the parties and tailgates beforehand.
It's an experience. It's fun. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, vanilla bean. Pretty standard, boring guy.
Favorite movie?
Oh, man, that's hard. I love the Lord of the Rings series. Rocky was always my favorite movie growing up, so I probably have to go back to Rocky. But those are the two that stick out.
And then your favorite book?
Oh, man. Wow. It depends on, I do like, the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit series, that kind of stuff. I can kind of nerd out a little bit and enjoy some of those kind of books. So if I was just like reading casually, probably that series. My brother gave me The Hobbit when I was growing up, when I was real young. So I kind of fell in love with that story and then, got into that. Speed of Trust from like a business book is one of my favorite because I just so believe in the message of that book and the importance of trust within a team and in a working group. Those are the two things that stick out.
Well, sounds great to me.
Everybody in the department is Googling that right
Yeah,
now.
everyone's
ordering it.
Like, oh, I read this book. You should. It's so great.
It's about to sell out on Amazon. Boone
The
County.
last thing we do is we obviously have to put you on the board. So I have your picture printed out here, and
What kind of picture do we have?
I just did your headshot.
We went standard.
I went
okay.
standard. I didn't know if I should go like Google searching.
So you had
crazy.
a shot at taking an opportunity to take a shot at the boss, and you didn't take it.
No, I didn't.
Really good.
I didn't. So you can come put it on anywhere on the board.
I do the honors. All right.
Did you wear like the big extended shoulder pads that were popular in the 90s?
Very much so.
There you go.
So the big shoulder pads, and I had like the neck roll, and I actually had I don't even know what it was called, the big block thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I look back on that, and I completely do not understand what we were doing, but it made us look really big.
Right,
I guess.
right.
Yeah.
I think that there were a few clips that circulated on Twitter when you were announced as the AD. So of
There
maybe.
might have been a message from President Choi that said, "Can we take that down from Twitter?" I'm like, I don't think so. It was a good shot. It was a good shot.
Me against Mizzou probably wasn't the right message to send, but yeah, I can't.
You shot the gap on that one.
Yeah,
I don't
you
even know.
did.
Was that Kent Scornia? I can't even know what quarterback that was. Kent might be listening.
Johnson.
Phil Johnson.
Phil Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Kelly had the line that I had the hit that sent Phil Johnson back to 1AA or something like that.
Ouch.
I hope that's not offensive. I'm sorry if it was, but yeah, it was. He should blame his fullback who just didn't do his job to pick me up.
Well,
it was completely
Coach Batoon should be showing his linebackers that clip because it was. It might be a penalty these days. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Might
Yeah.
have been,
Could have been targeting. Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking time to come on to the podcast and tell us your story. It was great to learn more about your journey and kind of just hear how, you don't always know where you're going to end up, but sometimes it all falls into place, even if you don't necessarily expect to go that way. And so it was great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I was happy to do it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Laird. I strategically did not allow any of our media friends to talk to you until we did the podcast first. Exclusive rights to the AD.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That's the way it should work.
Yeah,
That's
there
the way
we
it should
go.
work.
All right. Well, we'll get back to work here soon. We promise.
Yeah.
Busy
I
weekend.
appreciate that. I know you will.
All right.
You will.
Thanks,
Thank
Laird.
you.
Thank you all.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Raceline Alternative Energy. Raceline Alternative Energy is working for a better future in rural Missouri. They are working to restore millions of acres of native prairie plants, which can be harvested to produce highly valuable clean energy called prairie power. Visit them online at racelinealternativeenergy.com.
Well, that was great.
It really was. It was. I learned a lot because there's some of those stories. Some of those stories I hadn't heard yet. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me is I want to be an athletic director one day. And so talking to our current athletic director and just hearing his story. And I think one thing, too, that was interesting is that at one point he didn't know if he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think, I've personally put a lot of pressure on myself to this is what I want to do. And so there are times when I think sometimes I'm like, maybe that moment isn't maybe that's too big for me, or maybe I don't want to, but then I almost get mad at myself for thinking that. And so I think hearing from him and his story, like, you never know what's going to come your way.
Right.
And so to take those opportunities and maybe don't put yourself in a box of what you want or you don't want, and just allowing those opportunities and kind of seeing where the path takes you was kind of what I got from his story. And so I don't know, it kind of helped me in a way.
Yeah,
was cool.
I go back to that question I asked him about the question he was asked at his press conference. Like, were you hesitant to get back involved in this job search when you didn't get it the first time? And I loved his answer because I can relate to that a little bit. Back in, I think it was 2003. You were 5. I was trying to get the job at the Post-Dispatch, and I got turned down. I didn't even get an interview, and I was angry. I took it personally. But guess what? 10 years later, I got the opportunity, and I didn't hesitate the second time around. And you just never know. You never know in any industry, really. But if you have a good attitude and you don't take things so personally, and sometimes it just has a way of working out. And now here he is, and he's got this chance again, and seems even more excited and thrilled and ready to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, don't take things personal, which, I think he had a lot of fascinating stories. And I think it's cool too, as someone who's lived in Columbia. I've only lived here 3 years. You've obviously lived here a lot longer.
Yeah.
But just hearing his perspective on the fans and the place, and I think it's special. But I've been here 3 years, and I feel like I've helped build towards something special.
Right.
Mizzou already had all these great things, but I feel like I was part of something, and to know that he also, in all of his times here, saw something that was so special, It makes me go, oh yeah, we have opportunity. We have, all these things are on our side right now. We just need to keep, in his words, keep the foot on the pedal, and keep going. And so I think that's cool as an outsider who's been here and has left and has come back and is now back again. Just cool to know that we all see Mizzou in the same light.
Right. And yeah, it means something to him. And we saw that you touched on that. It means something to him and his family. That first day was really cool to see. It was a good reminder how special this place can be, and whether you experienced it as an athlete, a student athlete, or as a young professional like you are, like I was when I was in my 20s living here and single. And I love the place, and now I'm seeing it differently with my kids in school, and I have a family, and it's same town, but different perspective, and still people have a real affinity for it, and that's great to see.
No, yeah, that's awesome. So.
What else we got?
Well, it was a big day in the Matter family house yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, it was, I guess. We have graduations for everything now. So our boys Connor and Jackson had their 8th grade.
That's
They call it transition ceremony. They don't actually use the word graduation.
See, you made it a graduation,
but
it's
was
not.
They graduate from John Warner Middle School. It was cool too because there was like a Mizzou athletics thing going on. So Will Cava's son is in their class.
We love that.
Coach Sullivan. Dawn,
Yes.
Matthew, her son is in their class. I think Coach Stutes in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Saw him there. So, it goes back to it is a small town at the end of the day. Maybe not as small as Blair DeBoard's Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
Kansas. But, you get to see familiar faces and all families going through. So very proud of Connor and Jackson. They are moving on to Rockbridge High School. So I guess they are officially high schoolers now.
That's so exciting. I look back 2012. That's when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I'm sure my mom doesn't look as fondly. I didn't talk to her my whole freshman year. I was very nice to her, but
Yikes.
Yeah, no, I was very mean. She says that she doesn't know where I went for a whole year, but I wasn't her child.
Uh-huh.
So
I wanted to share, the one of the guest speakers at their ceremony was the principal at Rockbridge High School,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously they don't know him yet. And he said, hopefully you don't get to know me too well.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a great line, and he said, when you get to high school, don't worry so much about fitting in as you do standing out.
Yeah.
So don't change who you are just to fit in with the crowd. Be who you are to stand out. And that really like hit me. And like I hope I don't know if the kids were listening. They were just looking at their watches or looking at their phones for it to be over. But great message, and that I think I can take away something from that too.
How would you rate your high school experience? You went to an all boys.
I went to an all boys Catholic school, St. Louis U High in St. Louis, obviously. So it's kind of hard to relate to folks here who didn't have that experience.
But
Connor Jordan did, so we can share
Connor
stories.
Jordan, shout out.
Yeah.
It
was different. You didn't have to worry about certain things. You weren't trying to impress girls during the day. It was more, and that doesn't mean we're focused on, every aspect of academics
School.
all the time. But there was an element of that.
But how would 10 out of 10? How do you rate it?
A solid 8.
Okay,
It
I would
was
agree.
great.
I would say I also had an 8
Yeah.
out of 10 experience. I was really quiet my freshman and sophomore year. My best friend was a junior my freshman year, and so I would hang out with all the junior kids,
Yeah.
and I was just like a silent observer. But she brought like the best out of me, and she was so like big personality, and so she really helped me to come out of my shell. And then she graduated, and I was a junior at that point, and my sister was in school, and then my sister hung out with me and all of the people. But I think by the time I kind of had come out of my shell, everyone had known me for like a little bit more of the like shy, quiet outside. I also cheered competitively, so I was away a lot. I didn't do a lot of the same like high school things. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Great town, good experience. I knew everyone. My grade was great. Everyone was really nice to each other, and like we all got along.
It took me a while. I didn't know anybody going into my class, and I wasn't great at making friends early, but I ended up meeting my 3 best friends that I'm still in touch with today.
I think for me, our town was about 800 people in the school, and I know that sounds like a lot, but we had all gone to school. The kids above me and the kids below me, and then my sister's grade, I knew everyone in my sister's grade because she had gone to school with them since, 6th grade, 5th grade technically. So I'd gone to school with the same group of kids, and then we had a few more kids come in at the 5th grade level, and so we had just always been in school together, and so we all knew each other. And I don't think I would have enjoyed going to school with like 1,400 other kids in my grade.
Mm-hmm. That's a big class.
Yeah, producer Steve, rate your high school experience.
Solid 9.7.
All right, wow.
Producer Steve was the cool guy, and
I was kind of short when I started high school,
which is funny because you're tall now.
I know. I grew 8 inches between my either sophomore to junior year or freshman to sophomore year. I can't remember.
Oh.
So you came back and
HGH
then you were the
or something?
cool guy.
What are you doing?
I slept and ate and I practiced. That's all I did that summer. But no, I played. I mean, the way Laird was describing his stuff. I mean, I was a paper boy. I used to ride my bike to Walmart, and I played all the sports, and it was great.
Without calling you out, like on the age thing, I literally couldn't ride my bike anywhere. It's unsafe nowadays. You can't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't let my kids ride their bikes to my parents' house to the Walmart
Could you ride your bike and throw newspapers on people's driveways?
No. One, my mom didn't let us like play outside because I grew up on a busy road, and I grew up on it was called Mountain Road because it was on a mountain. But so it was
clever,
a hill, and I grew up on the corner. So technically I was on Stein Road. I wasn't on Mountain, but there was a stop sign, and people would just blow the stop sign up and down. And so my mom was like, you're not playing there because people just turn onto our road and they blow the stop sign. She's like, you're going to get hit. You're not playing outside. You're not riding your bike. So
just go cheer somewhere.
Yeah.
Do
Well, we had a trampoline.
tumbling.
We were just allowed in the yard. It wasn't like we could bike down the road. I don't know. We just didn't do that. So
dangerous area, huh?
Well, not really. I lived in the center of town. I just lived on a hill.
Oh, okay.
So,
dangerous landscape, dangerous topography.
But very excited for the Matter children to start high school. Should be fun.
It should be, yeah.
What an adventure. And Will Matter still kicking it. That kid's
He's
so
getting ready
cool.
for 2nd grade. So he was they got little certificates at the end of the school year. He got from his teacher, Miss Myers. I know she's listening. Her family, big Mizzou fans. Most likely to be president.
I could agree with that.
I'm
one.
like, president of what exactly?
Anything. If he wants to be president of the United States, Will Matter, I'll vote for you. If he
That'd
wants
be
to
great.
be president of a company, Will Matter. I will support you.
He was very proud.
Whatever he wants to do. I could see it.
Yeah.
He's just too cool for school.
He really wants to come out for softball this weekend. We'll see.
Yeah. It'll be fun. We got a big super regional weekend. I feel like we owe it to talk about, did everyone watch the Scotty Scheffler video?
Yes.
Yes.
Does everyone have any thoughts?
I just don't comprehend why. I mean, he had like serious felony charges.
Right?
So
Like
what? My favorite thing is that like I just like how the police department doubled down. I don't know, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this, but
Probably
I think
not.
it's funny. Whatever, it's fine. Pat McAfee show talked about it, so it's fine. I just thought it was funny. Based on the video, you know, the report made it to one extreme and the video made it out to be something
Little
much
different,
less.
yeah.
Yes. We're just gonna let the process play out. But I just think that the number one golfer and arguably the nicest human being in the world seemed to have been on the
Yeah. I did like he got interviewed after like the round after it happened, and he said that like the people that were in the jail, they were like, "Do you want the full treatment?" And he's like, "What's that?" And they're like, "Well, do you want something to eat?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And so literally his pre-meal before he went and golfed in a U.S. major was a prison sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, and I also saw that he was like, I didn't know if I could, because they asked him, like, did you think you were going to make your tea time? Like, what did you think? And he said, I didn't really know. So I just started stretching in the cell. Clearly, he ate the jail meal. But yeah, I just thought we had to, you know, since it happened.
It
last
did happen
past
while
week.
we were recording.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
all kind of
That was
came
wild.
out. So just want to make sure you all saw the video. But,
Thoughts and prayers for the officers' pants. Apparently, they got a little messed up.
well, I don't know. Also, this is breaking news too. Did anyone watch the movie Super Size Me?
The guy who ate McDonald's.
Yeah.
for-
I did, yeah.
He just died of cancer.
Oh no.
What?
Well,
Yeah, so sad.
Really?
what's that tell you?
Yeah, it just came out this morning. The documentary on he ate McDonald's every day for 30 days.
When did that documentary come out? Was that
It was
like
in the
90s?
2004.
Oh,
I was
okay.
6.
It
I
was-
watched it later on in life, but that's okay.
Wow,
It never stopped. Rest in peace, but that never stopped me from eating there.
I didn't get
Growing up.
into McDonald's until like 2 years ago. I wasn't allowed to eat it as a child, and now maybe I think I'm rebelling, but it's delicious.
You get your French fry cravings sometimes.
I do. In the
Yeah.
office, it's so bad, and I just want, just want a little French fry here and there. Gets you through the day. But we don't have any questions.
We're hitting all the headlines today,
I
aren't
know
we?
we are. I'm just making it.
What? Yeah, we don't have any questions from our readers. And in fairness, I didn't ask for any.
You didn't. He comes in and he goes, "We don't have any questions." I said, "You didn't ask for any, so how do we expect anyone to give us questions?"
Yeah, we're kind of hot and cold on those.
I know, but sometimes people ask us questions and then sometimes they don't, and so
I will say, like, I haven't looked at our numbers recently, but like everywhere we go, we hear about people talking about the podcast.
Correction, you hear about it, and then if
No,
we're in the
come
same
on.
room, you're like, "She's the co-host," and they go, "Oh."
Well, we met some fans on the come home tour
We
that
did
were
meet
very
some
excited to
fans.
meet you.
Yes, they were.
They could put a name with the face. I guess they're more listeners than watchers,
Yeah.
viewers on.
I think that's the thing is that
YouTube.
everyone knows my voice, but no one knows my face, which is probably I'm really okay with that one, probably. So all good on that front. But yes, we do actually have a lot of people that will say, "Oh, I listened to the podcast," so we are very appreciative for our millions of loyal listeners.
Yeah, especially our staff. They come in
I
and they're like,
know.
"Hey, I just listened to one episode from." I'm like, "Oh, that was months ago. I forgot about that."
I know, but they do like it, which I appreciate. I always love when they say, "Hey, I liked this episode," or "Oh, I learned this." So
They always want to know who's on next.
they do. They're trying to get some insider information,
I'm like, Coach Drink is on next, of course.
of course. So
We'll
But-
see.
should we wrap it up?
Check your questions. You might have gotten some on your DMs. Have you checked
No,
those?
I do check my DMs, and no one's in there.
Okay. How are we gonna top Laird?
I don't know. We're gonna have to really think about our next guest.
We've got like a long list of
I
people
know, we've got
lobbying
a
to
long
get on.
list. We do. I think we've got some good ones.
Well, hopefully they will have great stories because everyone has a beautiful story to tell as long as you ask the right questions and are willing to listen. This is Mizzou Storytellers.
I'm Nikki Berry.
I'm Dave Matter.
We'll see you next week.